First story, Atacama Desert, 1995. I remember it like it was yesterday, although it feels like a dream or a nightmare now. It was the summer of 1995, and my family and I were traveling through the Atacama Desert in Chile. We had been on the road for hours, the heat from the sun still clinging to the air, and we were all tired. My father decided we should stop for the night in a small, remote area, far from any towns or light pollution. It was pitch black, the kind of darkness that swallows you whole. We set up camp, ate a quick meal, and sat around the fire. Not a sound in the air except for the crackling of the flames. We didn't realize that the night was about to change everything. Around midnight, as I was staring into the fire, I noticed something strange in the sky. At first I thought it was a star or perhaps a plane, but it didn't move in a way that anything should. The light was too intense, too bright, and it didn't flicker, it just hovered. I stood up, trying to get a better look, and that's when I felt it, a pull, like a magnetic force. At first I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me, but the more I tried to look away, the stronger the pull became. My family didn't notice, or if they did, they didn't say anything, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. Before I could say anything, the light grew larger, and I felt my body go cold. I couldn't move. It was like something had locked me in place. The world around me blurred and stretched, and I saw my hands. My fingers were glowing faintly, like they were connected to the light. The next thing I knew, I was no longer standing on the ground. I was being lifted. The sensation was hard to describe. Imagine every fiber of your being pulled upward, as if gravity itself no longer existed. I didn't feel weightless. It wasn't like floating. It was as if the ground was simply gone. I couldn't hear anything, no wind, no voices, just an eerie silence that filled my ears. The light around me grew brighter, blinding even, and I remember feeling my breath catch in my chest. Panic started to rise within me, but there was no way to scream or move. It wasn't a choice. I could feel the light surrounding me, touching my skin. I don't remember how, but somehow I was inside something now. It felt like a room, but everything around me was shifting, like it wasn't really solid. I couldn't tell if I was standing, floating, or lying down. And then I saw them. At first I thought they were human, but the more I looked, the more wrong it felt. Their bodies were humanoid, but their skin was a dull silver, almost metallic, and their eyes were enormous, so black and deep, like endless voids. I didn't understand what I was seeing, what was happening to me. I couldn't speak, I couldn't scream, I couldn't move. One of them, its eyes fixed on mine, reached toward me. I tried to pull away, but my body wouldn't respond. It connected some kind of device to my chest. It didn't hurt at first. But then, God, it was like my chest was being torn open. The pain was unbearable. The machine, or whatever it was, felt like it was digging inside me, and I could feel something inside my body moving in ways it shouldn't. I thought I was going to die. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. Then, out of nowhere, the pain stopped. The machines disconnected from me, and for a brief moment everything went silent again. And that's when it hit me, pure euphoria. It was so strange, but it was like every nerve in my body was alive in a way I'd never felt before. It wasn't sexual, it wasn't physical, just a raw, unexplainable bliss. I felt like I was in some sort of otherworldly ecstasy, completely detached from everything. I didn't understand it, but it felt right. I didn't want it to end. And then, just as quickly as it had started, it was over. I don't know how much time passed after that. It felt like moments, but I think it was hours. Suddenly I was back in the desert. The cold, the dryness of the air hit me all at once, and I staggered, disoriented. I looked around, but my family wasn't there anymore. There was no campfire, no tent, no sign of anyone. My legs buckled beneath me and I collapsed onto the sand. I don't remember what happened after that, but I woke up in the same place where we had parked our car hours later. My body ached, my mind was foggy, and I couldn't remember what I'd seen, what had happened to me. I was so confused. I didn't know where my family was. When I stumbled to the car, I found them asleep, like nothing had happened. No one remembered the strange light or my absence. They didn't know I had been gone, but I knew. I knew something had happened to me that night, something that had changed me. Over the next few days, I started having these strange visions. I saw stars, planets, things I couldn't explain, things that weren't of this world. I couldn't make sense of them, but they were clear in my mind. The feeling that I'd been given some kind of knowledge I couldn't understand started to eat at me. It haunted me. It was like a part of me had been left behind, a part of me I couldn't explain. I tried talking about it to my family, but they just brushed it off. They didn't understand. I didn't either. All I knew was that something had happened, something that I couldn't forget. I tried to forget, but it wasn't possible. It felt like the information I had received was slowly being unlocked piece by piece over the years, and then I started hearing about others. People who had similar experiences, people who had been taken, people who had seen what I had seen. That's when I knew I wasn't alone. But even now, all these years later, I can't shake the feeling that whatever I encountered in the desert that night, it wasn't over. It was just waiting for the right moment. It's been almost 30 years since that night, and I've tried my best to live a normal life. But the memories, those visions, they never left me. I went through therapy for a while, trying to make sense of what happened to me, but no one could explain it. The doctors just told me it was some sort of trauma-induced hallucination, that it was my mind playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. The more I tried to push it away, the more vivid the memories became. There are nights when I wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding in my chest, because I swear I can still feel them, their cold metallic hands on me, the hum of the machines, the unnatural stillness of the air around me. I can't get rid of the sensation that I'm being watched. I've avoided looking up at the sky at night. It's strange, but when I do, I feel that same pull, that same sensation of being drawn into something I can't understand. It's like it's waiting for me. I've even tried to stay away from discussions about UFOs and alien abductions, but something keeps drawing me back. I hear other people's stories, and they sound so familiar, like pieces of my own. They describe the same beings, the same experiences, and it feels like I'm not the only one who's been touched by whatever happened to me. That's when I realized I'm not crazy. Something real happened, and I'm not alone in this. About 6 months ago, I attended my first UFO conference. I didn't go to speak. I was too afraid to tell my story to a group of strangers, but I wanted to listen. I wanted to hear what others had experienced. I wasn't prepared for how quickly the memories came rushing back. There was a man there who spoke about his own encounter in the desert, exactly where I had been. His story was so close to mine, it felt like I was hearing my own voice. He talked about the bright light, the feeling of being pulled upwards, the strange beings with eyes that seemed to see right through you. When he described the machines, I felt a chill crawl down my spine. It was like I was right back in that ship, connected to those devices again. I couldn't breathe. I had to leave the room. I just had to. But after that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were out there, somewhere. That somehow, in the vastness of the desert, in that lonely place where nothing but the wind and the stars can be heard, the truth is waiting for us. I've spent countless hours researching, reading books, looking through old case files. Every time I dig deeper, I uncover more about that night, about what I experienced. But there's still so much I don't understand. Why me? Why was I chosen? Or was I just unlucky? And why do I feel like I'm not done with them yet? I haven't told my family any of this. I know they wouldn't believe me. They still don't talk about that night like it was just a weird moment that passed and never happened. But I know. I know what I felt, what I saw, and what I experienced. I'm not sure how much of the experience is still buried in my mind, how much was suppressed or erased. But there are moments late at night when I get these flashes of memories that don't feel like my own. It's like there's someone else inside my head showing me images, sounds, and words I can't explain. I've tried writing them down, but they don't make sense, and even when I do, it's like the words slip away before I can make sense of them. I've even had dreams, strange, vivid dreams of those beings, or something that looks like them, standing in front of me, not saying anything, but I know they're there, watching me. I've started to wonder if they left something behind in me. Maybe it's why I can't let go of this. The more I try to forget, the stronger the pull becomes. I feel like there's something waiting for me to remember, something that's locked away inside me. And no matter how hard I try to ignore it, I know I'm not done with whatever it was that I encountered. It's like they're waiting for me to come back. Or maybe they never really let me go at all. It's hard to explain how this feeling has grown over the years, but it's almost like a constant hum inside my chest, a presence I can't shake. Lately, it's become more intense. I can't focus, I can't sleep, and it's starting to affect my daily life. I know this might sound crazy, but I feel like they're coming back. The lights, the sensation of being pulled, they've been in my mind more than ever. I've been seeing them, almost as if they're still watching me, just waiting for the right time. My thoughts are filled with images of the ship, those silver beings, and the sensation of being connected to their machines. But now, it's different. I can't explain it, but it feels like there's something else, something darker lurking beneath the surface. It's not just the abduction I remember now, it's the feeling that there's something more to this, something I'm not supposed to understand. I've tried reaching out to others who have had similar experiences, but no one ever really talks about it in a way that helps. There's a kind of unspoken fear in their eyes, a hesitation. I know they feel it too. They're afraid of what they know, and they don't want to go any deeper. Neither do I. But it's becoming harder to ignore. It's like I'm trapped between two worlds, and every time I close my eyes, I can see them. I started to look deeper into my family's history, trying to find some kind of explanation, a connection that might help me understand why this happened. But there's nothing, no signs, no history of strange occurrences or alien sightings. It was just a regular trip, nothing special. But what if it wasn't random? What if I was marked, selected somehow. I don't know if I'll ever get an answer to that, but the feeling of being watched has only grown stronger. I found myself thinking about that night over and over again. Every detail, every sensation, the feeling of being inside the ship, it's like I can't escape it. And recently, I've noticed something else. Small, almost imperceptible changes in my body. Nothing huge, just little things, an ache in my joints that wasn't there before, a strange sensitivity to light, even the occasional buzzing in my ears that reminds me of that hum I heard in the ship. It sounds absurd, I know, but I've been feeling it. I don't know if it's just in my head, or if something is happening to me. But I've come to the conclusion that whatever happened that night, it didn't end with my return to Earth. It didn't end when I came back to my family, to the desert. There's more, and it's just waiting to make itself known. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep living like this, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if tonight is the night they return. I've thought about going back to that spot in the desert, just standing there trying to recreate the moment to understand what happened. But I'm terrified. What if it happens again? What if it's worse this time? I don't think I could survive that. There's a part of me that wishes I could just forget everything, but I know that's impossible now. It's like a scar that never heals, like the memory has embedded itself so deep that it will never fade. I keep hearing other abduction stories. People describing the same feelings, the same sensations, and I can't help but think that this is far from over. It's not just an experience, it's a part of me now. I don't know why I'm sharing this. Maybe I'm hoping that someone else out there has felt what I feel, has experienced what I experienced. Maybe I'm hoping someone can tell me that I'm not crazy, but deep down I already know that it's not about me. Whatever this is, it's bigger than any of us, and it's coming for us. I can't explain it, but I feel it. The world is bigger than we think, and sometimes it feels like we were never meant to be here. Like we're just passing through, waiting for something to come and claim us. I just don't know when or how. I've been avoiding the news lately. I've been avoiding I can't stand hearing about UFO sightings, government disclosures, or any of it. It only brings back the feeling of dread, that tightening in my chest that something is lurking, waiting to come for me. Yet, every now and then, I catch snippets of stories from people who claim to have had experiences similar to mine. They talk about hearing voices in their heads, of knowing things they shouldn't, of sensing things out of place in their lives. It's terrifying how much they mirror what I went through, but no one seems to have any answers. I've gone online trying to find anyone who can explain the visions I've had, the memories that don't feel like my own, but I can't find anyone who truly understands. I've even started questioning the truth of my own memories. What if it wasn't real? What if I'm just holding on to a delusion I created in my mind? But deep down, I know what I felt. I know the terror I experienced. I know the knowledge that I somehow now carry. The sense that the universe is much, much larger than we've been told. Something is watching us. And it's not just limited to me. It's in the air we breathe, in the silence of the desert, in the way the stars seem to blink too knowingly at us. I don't know how much longer I can keep living with this. I'm too afraid to go to sleep, too afraid to close my eyes. What if they're still here? What if they're waiting for me to fall asleep so they can take me again? I used to think the world was a simple place, full of little certainties, and not much that would really shake your reality. I thought I knew who I was, where I came from, and what the world had to offer. Now, I don't know anything. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm not sure if what happened to me was a dream, or if it was real, or if it was something else entirely, some place between the two. But I know it changed me. The way I see the world now, the way I perceive time, it's all different. I'm hyper-aware, constantly checking over my shoulder, waiting for something to happen. Some days I feel like I'm living in a fog, like I'm just going through the motions, but I'm never really present. The worst part, I'm starting to feel like the information I received, whatever it was, has started to come back. It's not something I've chosen to think about, but I can feel it slipping back into my mind. I can feel it shifting like 1,000 puzzle pieces rearranging themselves in my head. It's not knowledge that comes easily. It's more like a pressure, like something trying to force its way to the surface. And I don't know what it means. I don't know what it's trying to tell me, or if it's something I'm meant to understand. It's like there's a key, a part of me that is locked away, and only they know how to unlock it. Maybe that's the real reason I'm so terrified. To face the truth of what I'm supposed to know, the truth of what they want me to remember. Last night, I had another dream. It was the same as all the others. I was standing in the middle of that desert again, in the exact spot where it all happened. The stars were brighter than I'd ever seen them, but there was something off about the way they twinkled. They seemed to pulse, like they were alive. And then the light appeared, just like it did before, blinding, pulling me up into the sky. But this time I didn't fight it. I just let it happen. As I was lifted, the ground below me seemed to shift, as though the desert itself was alive, breathing with me. I was aware of everything, the air, the silence, the light, and yet it felt like I was being stripped of everything I knew. The ship, no, it wasn't just a ship this time. It was something else. It was a place, an experience, a moment in time that felt like it was beyond the physical realm. And there were the beings again. Those same humanoid creatures, but they weren't just standing around me this time. They were communicating with me, not with words, but with thoughts. Images, feelings, memories that didn't belong to me, but felt as though they were always there, waiting. I woke up from that dream with my heart racing, my body cold with sweat. But it wasn't just a dream. I know it wasn't. It felt too real. I felt them in my head again, that unspoken connection, like they were trying to reach me. It's like they're calling to me, telling me that whatever is locked inside me is ready to be unlocked. And I'm terrified to find out what that means. I've been trying to ignore it, trying to tell myself that it's just my mind playing tricks on me, that I'm stressed or just overthinking things. But I know that's not true. The more I try to push it away, the stronger it gets. It's like I'm becoming attuned to something, some frequency, some pulse in the air that's not human. A few nights ago, I was outside just trying to breathe, trying to clear my head when I saw something. A small flash of light in the sky, like a star that blinked too quickly. My heart nearly stopped. It wasn't the kind of thing that happens by accident. I've seen those lights before. They were back, and they were watching. I rushed inside, locked all the windows and turned off the lights. I sat in silence, my body shaking, waiting. But nothing came. No one came. It was as if the night swallowed the event whole, leaving no trace. And that's the worst part. No answers, no closure. I'm stuck in this endless loop, reliving that night over and over, hoping for something that will make sense of it all. But it's like trying to hold water in my hands. It slips through my fingers every time. There's no explanation for what's happening to me. No one who can give me the comfort of normalcy. I don't know if they're waiting for me to remember, or if I'm meant to keep feeling this strange calling inside of me forever. I've kept to myself more than usual. Friends and family are starting to notice how different I've become, how quiet and distant I am. I know they're worried, but I can't explain it to them. How do you explain to someone that you've been marked, that you've been pulled into something so vast, so incomprehensible that your entire world has shifted? I've tried to talk about it in bits and pieces, but I can see the fear in their eyes when I do. They don't want to hear it, and I can't blame them. No one wants to believe that something like this is real, something that can change you so completely. But the truth is, it is real, and it's happening to me. I've even tried to reach out to UFO researchers and paranormal experts, but it's like they don't take me seriously. They want something concrete, something that can be measured, but there's no way to measure what I've experienced. It's not tangible. It's a presence, a force, something beyond our comprehension. They don't understand that. And honestly, I don't think I do either. But I can't keep living this way, caught between the need to know the truth and the overwhelming fear of what that truth might be. I'm starting to realize that I might never get answers, that this might be my new reality. But I also know I can't go on living in this state of constant fear and uncertainty. The worst part isn't the memories, the lights, or the beings. It's the feeling of being alone in this. No one else really understands. They might think they do, but they don't. They can't. There's a part of me that wishes I could forget it all, pretend like it never happened, but deep down, I know that's impossible. I'll never forget the way it felt when I was pulled into that light, when I was taken, when they examined me. I'll never forget the look in their eyes, the knowing, the cold detachment. I don't know when or how it all started, and I don't know when it will end. All I know is that I'm still here, still caught in their grip, and it's not something I can escape. No matter how hard I try to move on, I feel it every day. They're always there, in the back of my mind. I don't know what they want from me, but I can't shake the feeling that they're waiting for something. And I don't know what will happen when they get it. Second story, Mojave Desert, 1988. It was a clear, quiet evening in the Mojave Desert. I was out there on a test flight, working on a prototype aircraft for the company. No one was around for miles, just sand, rocks, and the setting sun. I'd been up in the air for a few hours, testing the craft's stability, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. At first, it was just a small, bright dot in the sky. I thought it might be a plane, but it didn't make sense. It wasn't moving like any aircraft I'd seen before. The light grew brighter, almost blinding, and I couldn't figure out what it was. It was so intense, like a spotlight but coming from above. I squinted, trying to make out the shape, but the next thing I knew, the entire cockpit around me went dark, like a sudden blackout. My vision went out for what felt like forever. It wasn't just a flicker. I felt disoriented. My body froze. The only thing I could feel was a cold, sharp pressure all over me, like I was being pulled. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. When I could finally see again, I wasn't in the cockpit. I wasn't even in the desert anymore. The air around me felt sterile, cold, and thick. It was like I was in some sort of metal chamber, but there was no clear floor or ceiling. Everything around me shimmered in a dull gray light. The walls, if you could even call them that, looked like they were made of some kind of smooth, seamless material. I remember trying to scream, but no sound came out. My mouth felt dry, like I had no control over it. I couldn't even move my arms. Then they came. The beings. I don't even know how to describe them. They weren't like the typical gray aliens you hear about. These were different, taller. Their skin was a pale, almost translucent white, and they had these huge black eyes that seemed to penetrate straight through me. They didn't have any facial features like we do, no nose, no mouth, just eyes. It was like they could read my thoughts. They didn't speak in a way we do, but I could hear them in my head. There was a calmness about them, but it was terrifying. I knew I was at their mercy. The next thing I remember is feeling an intense coldness all over my body, almost like they were scanning me. It wasn't painful, but it was deeply uncomfortable, like something was poking and prodding me from the inside. I couldn't tell if they were touching me or if it was some kind of advanced technology, but whatever it was, it felt invasive. I could feel my pulse racing, but they didn't seem to care. They moved around me, touching various points on my body, and I could feel their presence around me as if they were studying me from every angle. It wasn't like an experiment from some science fiction movie, though. It felt much more real, like they were actually learning something from me, something important. They didn't seem aggressive, but there was this overwhelming feeling that I wasn't meant to be here, and I wasn't meant to understand what was going on. They showed me things, these strange devices, shiny metallic objects with no obvious purpose. I couldn't understand them, but the moment they showed them to me, it felt like my mind was trying to absorb them, like the knowledge was trying to force its way into me. I don't know how long it lasted. Time felt irrelevant, like it wasn't moving in the way we understand it. Minutes? Hours? I couldn't tell. My body didn't feel real anymore, like I was no longer in control of it. I could still hear them, those soft, almost telepathic whispers, but I couldn't process anything properly. It felt like my brain was working at a fraction of its capacity, struggling to keep up with the information they were sending me. I remember seeing images flash in my mind, blueprints of machines I couldn't recognize, shapes and patterns that felt like they were from another world. I was scared, yes, but there was also this strange feeling of understanding, like I was meant to see these things, as if the technology was something I had to comprehend to move forward. But I couldn't. My mind kept rejecting it. Whatever they were showing me wasn't something I was ready for. My chest tightened, the air became harder to breathe, and I couldn't shake the overwhelming sensation that this wasn't just an abduction, it was a test of something greater. And I was failing. The moment it ended, or at least when it seemed to, was just as sudden as everything else. 1 minute I was frozen, completely at the mercy of these beings. The next I was back in the desert, standing on the hard ground. My heart pounded in my chest. I looked up. The sky was dark. The light that had blinded me earlier was gone. The desert was still, too still, like nothing had ever happened. The craft, my aircraft, was gone. I couldn't remember how I'd gotten out of it or how long I'd been gone. I stumbled around in a daze, trying to make sense of what had just occurred. But the more I tried to focus on the details, the more they slipped away. It was like I had this fog in my mind, this block that wouldn't let me process the experience clearly. I felt sick, disoriented, like I had just woken up from the worst dream, but the terror was still with me. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I kept checking my body. No physical marks, no evidence that anything had happened, but the feeling of that cold, invasive presence was still lodged in my bones. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should run, scream for help, or just collapse right there. I checked my watch. Hours had passed, but I had no memory of them. I remember walking aimlessly through the desert, the sound of my boots crunching on the sand being the only thing keeping me grounded. I finally made it back to my truck, but something wasn't right. My hands were shaking. My legs felt like jelly. I had this gnawing feeling that if I went back to civilization, if I told anyone what had happened, I would be laughed at, dismissed. I wasn't sure anyone would even believe me. It didn't help that, when I got back to the company, I couldn't explain why I had been gone for so long. The craft was fine, but I had no real answers. I told them I'd gotten lost, that I had just had a mishap with the test flight, but even I didn't believe that. I couldn't tell them the truth. They would have thought I was crazy. But the knowledge that I wasn't crazy, that what I experienced was real, gnawed at me. And the worst part was the feeling that whatever I had been shown, whatever knowledge they had tried to push into my mind, was now part of me. And I didn't know how to handle it. I couldn't explain it to anyone, and I couldn't even explain it to myself. Over the next few days, I tried to push the experience out of my mind. I threw myself into work, tried to act normal, but nothing felt right. There were moments when I'd catch myself staring at things like random objects, tools, papers, even the aircraft itself, and I'd feel this deep sense of recognition, like I knew them from somewhere, but I couldn't put it together. It wasn't like déjà vu. It was more like I had seen these things before, but not in this lifetime. My thoughts felt fragmented, jumbled. It was as if the knowledge they tried to implant in me was fighting to break through, but my mind kept rejecting it. I was scared. I thought I was losing control. There was this overwhelming pressure to understand what had happened, but the more I tried, the further away it seemed. It felt like a door had been opened in my mind, and no matter how much I reached for it, I couldn't fully open it. Every time I looked at something, it was like a small part of me recognized it, but I couldn't make sense of it. I even started hearing whispers in my head, just low, unrecognizable sounds that would echo for hours. But the worst part was the physical sensations. My body didn't feel the same. I felt heavier somehow, like I was carrying something inside me that didn't belong. I tried to talk to a couple of close friends, people I trusted, but no one took me seriously. They all thought I was just stressed out from the test flight, from the long hours. They didn't understand. I couldn't even bring myself to tell my family. How could I explain that I'd been taken by aliens? How could I tell them I felt like my brain was breaking, like there was a whole other layer of reality I couldn't access without losing myself in it? I knew I needed answers, but the more I looked for them, the more I felt like I was being ignored. I reached out to a couple of ufologists, people who had studied these kinds of encounters, but they treated me like any other case. I was just another person with a strange story to tell. They gave me standard questionnaires, asked the usual questions, but I could see it in their eyes. They didn't believe me, not completely. I wasn't just some random guy with a wild tale. I was an engineer, someone who understood technology. They knew that, and yet they still treated me like I was just another person with an overactive imagination. It didn't help that the scientific community laughed at the idea. I couldn't get anyone to listen to what I'd experienced. The more I tried to explain, the more frustrated I became. I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. My body felt off, like it had been changed somehow. I started having these strange sensations in my hands, like something inside them was different. I didn't know how to explain it, but it was as if there was an energy in my fingertips that wasn't supposed to be there. At first, I thought it was just paranoia, but the feeling wouldn't go away. It was always there, just under the surface, like I was constantly aware of it. I tried to dismiss it, but I couldn't. It was like my body had become a stranger to me, as if it had been altered, even if I couldn't pinpoint how. And that knowledge, the strange foreign knowledge that had been shoved into my mind during the abduction, it kept resurfacing at random times. Sometimes while I was working, I'd have these flashes of understanding, like I could intuitively figure out how to solve complex engineering problems, but then just as quickly, the feeling would vanish. It felt like I was on the edge of something bigger, something terrifying, but I couldn't hold on to it. It slipped through my fingers every time I reached for it. I don't know how to explain this, but it was like I was being pulled in two directions, one foot in my old life and one in something else entirely, something I couldn't control. Eventually, the physical changes I was feeling got worse. I'd wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, feeling like I was suffocating. My heart would pound, and I couldn't shake the sense that something was watching me. At first I thought it was just anxiety, but it didn't feel like that. It was deeper. I'd lie awake in bed, the same cold sensation I felt on the ship, the same invasive presence seeping into the room with me. It wasn't until I started experiencing vivid dreams that I realized the truth. Whatever had happened to me out there in the desert, it hadn't ended. These dreams, if that's what they were, felt more like memories. Memories of being on that ship, of seeing those strange devices, of feeling their cold hands on me, prodding, examining, studying. Each night it got worse. Each night the dreams became more real, and I couldn't tell where the dream ended and the reality began. I'd wake up gasping for air, with no clear memory of how long I'd been asleep, and I'd see flashes of those beings watching me from the corners of my room. I couldn't escape them. It was as though they were following me. I began losing time again. It wasn't like before, when I had no memory of the event. It was subtler. I'd be driving, working, even talking to someone, and suddenly I'd lose a chunk of time. It would be like I'd blink, and hours would pass, and I'd have no idea where I'd been or what I'd been doing. This wasn't a normal kind of forgetfulness. It was controlled, like someone or something was pulling the strings of my mind and then resetting the clock. I started becoming paranoid. I couldn't trust my own senses anymore. I'd look at my watch and see it was 2:30 and then 5. Minutes later it was 4:00, and I couldn't remember what had happened in between. I tried to take notes, to document everything, but even that became impossible. Every time I thought I had a handle on it, something would change, and I'd be back at square one. I even tried seeing a therapist, but the moment I mentioned the word abduction, I was dismissed as just another conspiracy theorist. No one took me seriously. No one understood. There was one night, a few weeks after the incident, when everything came to a head. I was sitting in my apartment, just staring at the wall, trying to make sense of the mess in my mind, when I heard a sound. A low, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I froze. It was the same sound I heard when they took me. That hum. The ship's engine or whatever it was. It filled the room, vibrating through my bones. I tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. The hum grew louder, and I felt this intense pull, this overwhelming urge to go outside. I didn't want to, but something inside me pushed me to. I went to the window, and that's when I saw it, a light in the sky. Not just any light, a blinding, intense glow far too bright to be a plane or a helicopter. It was like the same light from that night in the desert. I couldn't breathe. My legs wouldn't move. It was happening again. I don't know how, but I knew it. They were back for me. They were coming. I stood there paralyzed, my heart hammering in my chest as I stared at that light. It wasn't moving the way any normal aircraft would. It hovered, spinning in place, almost as if it were studying me. I thought about running, about escaping, but my body wouldn't respond. It was like I was rooted to the spot, forced to watch as the light grew brighter. It felt suffocating, like the air itself had thickened, becoming heavier with each passing second. I couldn't escape. The last time I felt this way, I had been lying on that table, helpless, with those beings surrounding me. The panic started to swell, but there was something else in my chest, too. Curiosity. An urge I couldn't control. I knew deep down that I had to go outside. I had to face this. The light flickered, and I found myself grabbing my jacket and walking out of the apartment, even though every instinct told me to turn around. When I stepped outside, the night was still. The streets were empty. No cars, no sounds except the soft crunch of gravel beneath my boots. I looked up again, and the light was gone. I was about to turn back to my apartment when I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible hum, just like before. It was behind me. I whipped around, but there was nothing there. The air felt thick, like something was pressing down on me, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel the presence again. That feeling of being watched, examined. My breath caught in my throat as I slowly turned in a circle, scanning the night sky. And that's when I saw it. A shadow dark against the stars, moving silently across the sky. It wasn't just a plane or a helicopter. It was massive. Too massive to be anything human-made. My heart skipped a beat as I watched it glide above me, so close I thought I could reach out and touch it. But it wasn't the craft itself that froze me in place. It was the sound. The hum was louder now, so loud that it rattled my teeth. I could feel it deep in my chest, vibrating through my entire body like my bones were being rearranged. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the light flickered out. The hum stopped. Everything went quiet. My body went cold. And for a moment, I thought I might have imagined the whole thing, but when I looked up, the sky was clear. No signs of the craft. No trace of what had just happened. I felt like I had just walked through some kind of dream. Or, worse, like I had woken up into one. My head spun. I was left standing there in the middle of the street, feeling like I had just crossed into a place that was neither here nor there. But I knew, deep down I knew, that whatever had happened wasn't over. It would never be over. It had marked me, and I could feel the weight of it on my shoulders every single day since. I didn't know what they wanted, or why I was chosen. But one thing was certain. Whatever they had shown me, whatever knowledge they had tried to plant, inside my mind it wasn't just about technology. It was something far bigger. Something I would never fully understand. And now, I live with the constant feeling that they're still watching, waiting to finish whatever it was they started. Third story, Nevada, 1993. I still can't shake the feeling of that night. The desert in Nevada is supposed to be peaceful, quiet. It's endless stretches of sand and rock, the kind of place where people go to escape. But when I got out there, in '93, it wasn't escape I found, it was something far worse. I had been out there for a few weeks on a geology expedition, something routine, nothing special. It was supposed to be just another boring trip, collecting rocks and doing soil samples. But that night, I don't know what I was thinking. I stayed out a little later than I should have. The sun was setting, and I was near this isolated spot far from the main base camp. That's when I saw it, this bright, almost unnatural light, like the whole sky had suddenly been lit up by something otherworldly. I thought it was just a plane or something at first, but the closer I looked, the more it didn't make sense. It was too still, too deliberate. And then before I could react, the light just engulfed me. Everything went white. It wasn't a crash, not like you'd think. I didn't feel myself falling or anything like that. 1 second I was standing there in the desert, the next I was inside something that felt wrong from the start. I can't describe it properly. It wasn't like a spaceship you see in the movies, with sleek metal and sharp angles. This thing, it felt almost organic. It was like the walls of the ship were breathing, like they were alive. And I wasn't alone. At first I thought I was dreaming, or maybe just out of my mind from the desert heat. But these things, these beings, they weren't human. They had the shape of people, sure, but their skin wasn't normal. It had this metallic sheen to it, like polished chrome but darker. Almost like they were made of the very air around us, like they didn't belong. And their eyes, those eyes, huge, dark, hollow. I couldn't focus on them, like they were pulling me in. But I couldn't understand why. My body felt paralyzed, like I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was stare at them, terrified. They didn't speak at first, just stood there, watching me. I can't tell you how long that lasted. Time stopped making sense. Then they moved toward me. I didn't understand their language. It was like they were communicating without words. But I could still understand what they wanted. I felt it deep inside in my bones. They didn't need to speak. Their presence alone was enough to make me comply. I was forced to lie down on this cold table, if you could even call it that. It was like I was strapped down, but without any restraints. I couldn't move, couldn't fight back. One of them, the one who seemed to be in charge, though I don't know how I knew that, approached me with what looked like some kind of needle. I felt this sharp pressure on my skin, and then the most excruciating pain as they took my blood. I don't know why they did it. Maybe it was to study me, or maybe it was something else. But all I knew in that moment was that I wanted to die. I wished for anything to take me out of that hell. It wasn't just the pain, though. It was the feeling of being violated, like my body wasn't mine anymore. And it wasn't just my blood. I could feel them inside my head, digging through my thoughts. They showed me things, visions of places I didn't recognize, a future, a desolate, ruined world, like we had destroyed everything. I couldn't understand what they wanted me to see, and I couldn't stop it. I was helpless. The next thing I remember is waking up in the desert, lying flat on the ground. My whole body felt like it was on fire, and I couldn't breathe properly. The air around me felt heavy, almost suffocating. The sky had changed. The colors didn't look right, as if the atmosphere had been altered. But I wasn't concerned about that at first. I was too focused on the fact that I was alone. Alone. And I had no idea how long I had been out. My hands were shaking, my chest tight, like I had just run a marathon. I tried to stand up, but my legs buckled beneath me. I was dizzy, disoriented. It felt like I had been hit by a truck. I looked around, but nothing looked familiar. I was miles away. From the camp, no idea how I'd gotten there. All I could do was drag myself up, trying to figure out what the hell had happened, but I couldn't think straight. The images they showed me, the things I saw, my mind was still racing, unable to make sense of it. It took me hours to stumble back to the camp. When I finally found the other geologists, they said I'd been gone for over 12 hours. 12 hours. How the hell did that happen? They told me I looked sick, pale, like I hadn't slept in days. They couldn't understand why I was acting the way I was. I didn't tell them. How could I? Who would believe me? They didn't know what I'd seen, what had happened to me. I couldn't put it into words, and even if I could, I didn't want to. No one would have believed me, not in a million years. Instead, I kept my distance, and the more I tried to push it out of my mind, the worse it got. My thoughts were scattered. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, those damn images kept flashing before me, over and over again. The ruined world, the people. Were they people? Those things that weren't human. I knew something had changed in me, but I couldn't explain it. It wasn't just the physical stuff, the blood, the marks. They had done something to my mind. I knew it. They had shown me something, and I couldn't escape it. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I started to remember more. At first, it was just fragments, fuzzy images, feelings that didn't quite make sense. But then, in the middle of the night, I woke up with the overwhelming urge to remember. I had to know what happened, and I had to find answers. That's when I decided to undergo hypnotherapy, some kind of regression to see if I could uncover what was still buried in my mind. I found a specialist, someone who supposedly had experience with cases like mine. I didn't believe in that stuff, but I didn't know where else to turn. The first few sessions were vague, disjointed memories, flashes of cold metal and the faces of the beings. But then, in one session, it hit me. The images came flooding back like a dam had broken. I saw the ship again, the beings, the needle, the blood. I could feel their presence, see them standing over me. The images they showed me were clearer now, different visions of the future. A world torn apart, cities crumbling, people fighting for survival in a world that was already dead. I saw the earth dying, the sky black with smoke. And at the center of it all, there they were again, watching. I don't know why they showed me that. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe they were showing me the future they had planned for us. But I could feel it deep inside, like they wanted me to remember, to carry that burden with me, to make me understand that nothing would ever be the same again. I wish I could say the hypnosis sessions gave me peace or closure, but they didn't. If anything, they made it worse. The more I remembered, the more I realized how much of it didn't make sense. I kept asking myself, why? Why me? Why then? What did they want from me? My nights became unbearable. I couldn't sleep without waking up in cold sweats, every little sound outside my tent making my heart race. I started to lose track of time. I'd stare out into the desert for hours, my mind replaying the images they showed me, that dark future. But it wasn't just the visions. They were there too. I swear, I felt them. Every time I closed my eyes, I could almost feel them standing over me again, just watching. I could still feel the cold touch of the needle on my skin, the weight of those eyes. They didn't talk, but I could hear them in my head, just waiting. I couldn't trust myself anymore. I didn't know what was real and what was just in my mind. The fear was suffocating. Eventually, I left the desert. I couldn't take it anymore. But it didn't stop. It followed me. I thought I could escape it by going home, but that was a mistake. My family noticed. My parents kept asking me what had happened out there, why I looked so different, why I was so distant. They couldn't understand. They couldn't understand how I felt like I was being hunted, even in my own house. Every time I turned around, I thought I saw something, a shadow moving just out of the corner of my eye. I could hear things at night, whispers, barely audible, but they were there. And then, one night, I woke up to find a mark on my wrist, like a burn, but no explanation. It was just there, a deep, red circle, like something had pressed against my skin with immense force. It felt fresh, like it had just appeared. I couldn't explain it, and I didn't want to, but the fear came rushing back, stronger than ever. I thought about the implant they might have put in me, or something they did to my body that I still didn't fully understand. It was like they were still watching, still waiting for something. It got to the point where I couldn't function. I couldn't hold a job, couldn't focus on anything. I felt broken, like I was no longer myself. The memories kept flooding back, one after the other. The sensation of being on that table, the cold, sterile atmosphere, the beings. I had to go back to the desert. I had to know if it was real. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I went back to the place where it happened, I'd find some answers. So I went back. I didn't tell anyone, just packed up my things and drove out to that same spot. The moment I stepped out of the car, it hit me, like the weight of everything was pressing down on me all over again. The air felt thick, heavy, and I swear I could feel them out there, lurking, just waiting, but this time something was different. The place felt wrong, like it was alive. The silence was louder, more oppressive. I stood there for what felt like hours, just staring at the barren land, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I wasn't alone, but I didn't see anything. Nothing that could explain the terror I felt in that moment. Nothing that could make sense of what had happened to me. I don't know what I was expecting when I went back, but it sure as hell wasn't what happened next. The air grew colder as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the sand. The longer I stood there, the more unsettled I became. It felt like something was shifting around me, something I couldn't see but could definitely sense. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, and I couldn't breathe right. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the light appeared again. Not the same bright light as before. It wasn't as intense, but it was unmistakable. A low, almost flickering glow, like the horizon itself was shifting. I froze. I didn't know what to do, where to run, or if I even could. I could feel the pressure building inside my chest, like the air itself was thickening. My mind screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. My body wouldn't obey. And then, just like before, it felt like the ground beneath me was shifting. The world around me blurred, and the light seemed to wrap around me, pulling me upward. I couldn't tell what was happening anymore. I couldn't see anything clearly. The only thing I could feel was that damn suffocating pressure. When I woke up, I was back in the same spot, the desert, the same place, but everything was wrong. The colors were off, the sky a strange, muted hue, and the feeling of being watched, of something lurking just beyond the edge of my vision, was worse than ever. I checked my body for any signs, anything that might explain what had just happened, but there was nothing. No marks, no blood, no sign that I'd been touched. But I felt it, deep down. Something had happened. Something had shifted inside me. I don't know how long I was out this time. It could have been minutes, hours, or days. It was all a blur. But when I returned to my senses, the sense of dread was even more overwhelming. I made my way back to the car, my legs weak, my body trembling. The drive back to town was a nightmare. I couldn't stop looking in the rearview mirror, expecting to see something behind me. Every time I blinked, I thought I saw something in the distance, following me. It wasn't just the shadows, it wasn't just my imagination, it was the feeling of being hunted. I was being hunted, I knew it. But there was nothing out there, nothing I could point to, no evidence to prove it. Just the sensation of being a target. After that night, things spiraled further out of control. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight. I would wake up in cold sweats, drenched in fear, unable to shake the images that still haunted me. The faces of those beings, the cold metallic skin, the eyes that didn't blink. And every time I closed my eyes, I could feel them in my mind, digging, searching. It wasn't just memories anymore. It felt like they were in my head, playing with my thoughts, pushing me towards something I couldn't understand. I couldn't go to the authorities, couldn't talk to anyone. I was alone with it, alone with the terror. The worst part, it wasn't just the past, it was the future. Those images they showed me, the future they warned me about. It was coming. I could feel it closing in. A world destroyed, chaos everywhere, a world that had already been marked for extinction. I started to believe the visions were a warning, but a warning for who? What was I supposed to do? I didn't have answers. I didn't even have questions that made sense anymore. All I knew was that something was wrong, and I couldn't stop it. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. I didn't know what to do anymore. I tried to keep going with life, tried to ignore the paranoia, the fear that had taken root inside me, but every day felt like a battle, like something was just waiting for me to slip up. I couldn't trust myself, couldn't trust my own mind. I started hearing voices at night, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. At first I thought I was just losing it, losing my grip on reality. But the voices weren't like any hallucination I'd ever heard. It was as if they were speaking directly into my head. They'd say things I couldn't understand, things that made no sense. I would try to wake up from them, but it was like I was trapped in my own mind, unable to escape. Sometimes I thought I saw things moving in the corner of my vision, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. My heart would race, my skin would prickle with the feeling that something was always just behind me, always there, lurking, waiting. I knew it wasn't just me. I knew they were still out there, they were still watching, and they were still coming. I've tried to tell myself it was all a bad dream, some kind of mindfuck. But deep down, I know it wasn't. What I saw, what I felt, it was real. I still don't have answers, and I probably never will. I've kept this inside for so long, but I can't hold it in anymore. They're still out there, I know it. I can feel it in the pit of my stomach like a weight that won't go away. Every night I think about going back to the desert, but I can't bring myself to do it. I don't know what I'm afraid of more, the memories or the possibility that it will happen again. I've tried to move on, tried to forget, but it's always there, just under the surface. I don't know if it's because of what they showed me, or if they've left something inside me. Some part of me that isn't mine. Something that I can't shake. I don't know if I'll ever be able to move past it. Maybe I never will. Maybe that's the worst part of all this, knowing that it's never going to stop. If you're reading this and you think I'm crazy, I get it. I wouldn't blame you. But I know what happened to me. I know what I saw, what I felt. It's not something you can explain away. It's not something I'll ever forget. I don't know if they'll come back, but every day I live with the knowledge that they could, that they're out there somewhere watching, waiting, and I'll be damned if I ever get any peace. So I'm writing this, maybe as a warning or maybe just to make sure I'm not alone in this. I don't know if anyone else has experienced something like this, but if you have, I need to know. I need to hear it. Because I can't shake this, feeling this awful, suffocating feeling that they'll come for me again, and next time, it won't just be me.